All right, guys. Well, we do have a lot that has happened in terms of the transfer portal. I guess I'll begin with the news that came out late last night, early this morning. It's the former five-star quarterback, top 10 overall player, Malachi Nelson, who was a freshman this year at USC, seemed like he was going to, sit behind Caleb Williams and then take over for that Lincoln Riley offense. Apparently, it's not going to happen. I'm guessing his development has not gone as planned, and Lincoln Riley is being proactive. He's moving in another direction. Looks like Will Howard, the former Kansas State quarterback, will be transferring to USC. As I'm talking right now, it's not official, but with Malachi Nelson entering the portal, it seems like Lincoln Riley making the decision that Nelson is not going to be the guy. His development hasn't progressed to where they wanted. It's kind of curious considering this was Nelson's true freshman season, just his first year in college. You would think, maybe you would give him another year, but this is one of those type of deals where Nelson might want to start next year. Lincoln Riley might say, look, you're not ready. You're going to have to sit another season. And Nelson says, no, I'll just end up transferring. So this is a very unique player entering the portal considering he is 1 year removed from being a five-star perennial top 10 overall talent. We will see where he ends up. But for USC, it looks like Will Howard. And then focusing on another team out west, we learned on Saturday night that Washington's quarterback next year will be Will Rogers from Mississippi State. Now, I've said for a while now, I expect Washington to regress severely next year. They're losing their top receivers, obviously, their quarterback, Penix Jr., and a few different good defensive players. Also, they're joining the Big Ten. Also, going 13-0 or going undefeated again, very, very unlikely. I think they're going to lose 4 games next year personally, but Will Rogers, who kind of had a disappointing year this past season at Mississippi State. You can blame that on coaching for sure. It was kind of a clown show. They ended up firing their first-year head coach 11 games into the season. Either way, that is the situation in regards to that. And we did have the big other news story. Kyle McCord, the former Ohio State quarterback, committing to Syracuse. And people were, asking me, they're like, why do you have Kyle McCord, going to Pittsburgh? That's such a bad school. He's going to get better than that. Well, it turns out, you could argue Syracuse is actually worse than Pittsburgh, or at least they're on par. This is a situation where Kyle McCord needed to be guaranteed a starting job, and it just wasn't going to happen at a major program. Kyle McCord was simply not good enough at Ohio State with the talent that he had surrounding him to, be guaranteed a starting spot. Even at Nebraska, the rumors swirling about that visit that Kyle McCord had to Nebraska were that Nebraska basically chose Dylan Raiola over McCord, or they said to McCord, look, we're getting a 5-star quarterback. He's going to compete as a true freshman. You're going to have to beat him out. And McCord's like, no, I want this starting spot guaranteed to me. I only have 1 year left. That's why McCord is going to a school like Syracuse. So I think if you're Ohio State, this has got to be a blessing in disguise. I mean, I will say, Ohio State's quarterback situation is very hazy still because you're talking about Devin Brown, Lincoln Kienholz. Devin Brown couldn't even beat out McCord. And there is the excuse, well, he was injured, it was this, it was that. I don't know, man. It's just, we'll have to see what Ohio State ends up doing. There was the idea it would be Cam Ward, but it seems like Cam Ward possibly going to Miami. I did not hear anything out of Miami about that Cam Ward visit, but I would imagine there was a major NIL offer. You would have to expect Miami would be offering more than Ohio State. It's just the way their NIL operates, unless Ohio State gets really desperate and they're watching Devin Brown in practice and saying, this is not the guy. We need to go out and spend big bucks on the last remaining great transfer portal QB, but it does seem like Cam Ward will be going to Miami. That should be another domino. And we did also have DJ Uiagalelei visit FSU. The thought process there is he will be their starting quarterback next year, and I do think he is a little bit undervalued, similar to Dillon Gabriel. I think Dillon Gabriel is the best quarterback in the portal. Now you can argue and say, well, he only has 1 year of eligibility left. That should bring him down. But if you're only focusing on next year, Dillon Gabriel is a very impressive QB. So those are all kind of the major quarterback dominoes right now. You also did have Aiden Charles officially announce his commitment there to Michigan State, to transfer to Michigan State. What a massive coup this is for MSU, getting out of that Mel Tucker deal. When you're talking about the biggest winners in the portal, it's Michigan State, it's Ole Miss. There's rumors that Ole Miss now, the heavy favorites for Walter Nolan, the only 5-star ranked in the portal. It's really crazy. Ole Miss is going all in next year. And I'm going to come out with my portal major winners. It's going to be Ole Miss. It's going to be Michigan State. Those are two teams. And Aiden Charles, he didn't play a lot because he was the backup to DJ Uiagalelei, but he was a true freshman. He was a really solid recruit. And in his limited action, he was very good. So Michigan State really coming out of this Mel Tucker situation on the up and up. They get out of that terrible guaranteed contract. They get a young, good, up-and-coming coach, Jonathan Smith, and he brings a quarterback that has 4 years of eligibility remaining. It is impressive. And then we had Chip Kelly really drop some bombs, when he was doing his little, I don't know if this was a pregame bowl press conference here. UCLA ended up beating Boise State. Let me just say something about predicting bowl games. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Boise State is on like their 8th string starting quarterback. I mean, come on. It's just very annoying with bowl games because there's like 50 players sitting out. It's impossible to predict. But Chip Kelly said, look, this is just ridiculous what's going on right now with football, with NIL. Payers should be paid by the schools. There should be no NIL or any of that. I agree with him. I think you have to completely erase NIL. It's impossible to track. It's impossible to gauge. It's impossible to police. Also, Chip Kelly saying, yes, we do need a college football commissioner because the sport is so huge. It's just like an NFL commissioner. The sport makes so much money. You need some oversight, some major governance. And then also you need to separate college football from all the other sports, which is also correct considering college football is a separate entity as it relates to all the other major college sports. It's the one that makes the most money by far. It's its own world. You have all these teams making decisions for their entire athletic program just based off of how much money they can make because of college football TV contracts. That's why Cal and Stanford are going to be traveling. How about their women's basketball teams traveling, West Coast to East Coast? Same thing with softball. It's just ridiculous. And that's the point that Chip Kelly was making. He was like, Arizona's softball team should be facing our softball team. And he's absolutely right. It's ridiculous. This is a college football decision for Stanford and Cal to join the ACC. This is a college football decision for UCLA to go on the road at Northwestern, right? Go on the road at Rutgers. It's based off of college football money. Why should it just needs to be a separate entity. So Chip Kelly is absolutely right when he says that. And at some point, this is all an evolution process. Remember, it's the same thing with the playoff. As we learn, we will get better, we will evolve it, but it takes time. It takes multiple years. We didn't jump straight from the national championship to a 12-team playoff. It's an evolution. You go to the 4-team, and you've got some people saying, no, go back to the BCS, expand it to the 8-team, and it takes 7 or 8 years. And then you realize, no, it needs to be expanded again to 12 teams. It's all an evolution. So this will be figured out. What Chip Kelly is saying, this is coming. It's inevitable. What he's saying is coming, but it takes time. It's an evolution process within the sport, and it'll probably happen in the late 2020s or the early 2030s where it will be run a lot more like the NFL because the money is there. And then just a few other portal updates. How about Julian Fleming, the former top 3 overall player, originally going to Ohio State? I believe this is going to be his 5th year now. He's utilizing the extra year, possibly transferring to Penn State. This is what I predicted right when he hit the portal. He's originally from Pennsylvania. He's a big-bodied receiver. He made a few really nice catches in that Ohio State-Michigan game there at the end of the year, but Julian Fleming trying to get more reps. Certainly, you've got 1 year of eligibility left. It makes perfect sense. You want to start somewhere. Ohio State, they're always going to have elite receivers, so Julian Fleming, that would be a good pickup for Penn State, although Fleming's hands are not the most reliable. He is a big-bodied receiver, and Penn State certainly struggled when it came to receivers this past year. Also, Dayquan Finn transferring to Baylor. So a pretty good pickup there for Baylor to get him. There was the thought that maybe Malik Murphy, the Texas transfer QB. It is funny, people were pointing this out, that Murphy is technically the backup right now, considering he did fill in for Quinn Ewers in the regular season and started a game against Kansas State, but he's entering the portal before his team is even playing playoff games. So his team is in the playoff. They're extremely meaningful games. He could have theoretically gotten into the games. Now, they do also have Arch Manning, but he is a true freshman, and just based off of how bad the college football calendar is to where everything is so far back, the portal is pushed up, players can enter the portal before all of the bowl games, before the playoff game. That is a complete joke and needs to be changed immediately. There's a lot of things in college football that are just so obvious. It's almost like you know they're going to get changed, but we've just brought and inundated all of this NIL stuff, all of this transfer portal stuff. The rest of the rules have not caught up to NIL, transfer portal. When that happens, then we will have an acceptable college football product. That's still going to take 5 or 6 years from now. We are implementing some different things. We're getting better matchups through all of this different conference realignment, but it is going to take some time. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.